Imagine a courtroom unlike any other. The year is 897 AD. The setting is a darkened basilica in Rome. The air is thick with incense and the stench of decay. Before a hushed assembly of bishops, a most unusual defendant is brought to trial. It is not a living, breathing person, but a rotting corpse. Its lifeless hand, shriveled and pale, is propped up on a throne. This is the trial of Pope Formosus, who died in 896 AD. The silence is heavy with anticipation. Even in death, Pope Formosus commands attention. He is accused of perjury and violating canon law during his papacy from 891 to 896 AD. His accuser, the current Pope Stephen VI, watches intently. His eyes burn with a terrifying mix of righteousness and fury. This is not merely a trial. It is an act of revenge, a spectacle of power and retribution. To understand the bizarre events of the Cadaver Synod, we must journey back to the 9th century, specifically the late 800s. Europe was a turbulent place. The once mighty Roman Empire had crumbled by 476 AD. In its wake, kingdoms rose and fell with alarming speed throughout the 9th century. The Catholic Church, once a beacon of stability, was now caught in the political crossfire of the 800s. Popes were no longer just spiritual leaders. They were powerful political players, forging alliances and making enemies. The papacy became a poisoned chalice, coveted by ambitious nobles and scheming families. It is within this cauldron of intrigue that the story of Pope Formosus, who reigned from 891 to 896, begins. The stage was set for one of history's most bizarre trials. Formosus was an ambitious man. He rose through the ranks of the church, eventually becoming pope in 891. However, his reign was short-lived and tumultuous. He found himself embroiled in the power struggles that plagued Italy. He made powerful enemies. In 893, Formosus made a controversial decision. He crowned Lambert of Spoleto as Holy Roman Emperor. This angered the rival Arnulf of Carinthia and his supporters. In April 896, Formosus died. His death should have brought peace, but it only served to ignite the flames of vengeance. His posthumous trial, known as the Cadaver Synod, held in January 897, would become one of history's most bizarre events. Stephen VI ascended to the papacy in 896 AD after Formosus. He was a creature of spite. Stephen owed his position to Lambert of Spoleto, Formosus's old enemy, who had died in 898 AD. Determined to settle the score, Stephen ordered the exhumation of Formosus's body in January 897 AD. Driven by ambition and vengeance, he accused Formosus of crimes committed years earlier, specifically in 891 AD. It was clear to all that this trial was not about justice. It was about power. This macabre spectacle, the Cadaver Synod, held in 897 AD, would become a byword for the Church's darkest impulses. The trial began in January 897, with the gruesome spectacle of Formosus's decomposing corpse being dressed in papal vestments. He was propped up on a throne, a silent participant in his own humiliation. A terrified deacon was appointed as Formosus's defense counsel. The charges against Formosus were read aloud. They were a litany of accusations: perjury, violating canon law, and illegally obtaining the papacy. The entire trial reeked of injustice. Witnesses, coerced by fear, testified against the dead pontiff. The deacon, fearing for his own life, offered only a feeble defense. The trial concluded with a verdict that was a foregone conclusion. Unsurprisingly, Formosus was found guilty on all charges in January 897. The verdict, a foregone conclusion, was delivered with an air of grim satisfaction by Stephen VI. The punishment was as shocking as it was symbolic. Formosus, or rather his corpse, was stripped of his papal vestments. The 3 fingers he used in life to give blessings were chopped off. The body was then dragged through the streets of Rome and dumped into the Tiber River. The macabre spectacle was a warning to any who dared to cross Stephen VI. This gruesome act left a lasting mark on the history of the papacy and medieval Rome, forever remembered as the Cadaver Synod of 897. The people of Rome were horrified in January 897. The trial was seen for what it was, a grotesque abuse of power. Word of the Cadaver Synod spread throughout Europe, generating outrage and disgust. Stephen VI had miscalculated. His actions, far from consolidating his power, undermined his authority. In a stunning turn of events, Stephen was deposed in August 897. Some accounts say he was imprisoned and strangled to death in July 897. His fate, however, provided little solace for the memory of Formosus. The Cadaver Synod remains one of history's most bizarre and unsettling events. The Cadaver Synod of 897 left an indelible stain on the papacy. It remains a chilling reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the dangers of unchecked power. In a way, Formosus found a measure of justice. Subsequent popes, eager to distance themselves from the horrors of the Cadaver Synod, overturned the verdict in 898. Formosus's remains were, with great ceremony, retrieved from the Tiber and reburied in St. Peter's Basilica in 897. The Cadaver Synod serves as a stark lesson in the annals of church history. The Cadaver Synod of 897 stands as a bizarre footnote in history. It is a tale of ambition, revenge, and the absurdity of judging a dead man. Yet, it also holds a valuable lesson for us all. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the next time you find yourself in Rome, take a moment to remember the strange case of the Cadaver Synod. Remember Pope Formosus, the unfortunate pontiff who was put on trial even in death in January 897. And remember, sometimes truth is indeed stranger than fiction. Time may pass, but the absurdity of history remains.